I'll just be lazy, copy this entire thing, switch back to my console or terminal, and do a paste, press the enter key, cross my finger, and it worked. Don't forget about the crossing finger part.
And give me a little command that said from tar, it said removing leading slash from.
That's normal.
That's normal.
Yeah, it does the same thing over here too.
I didn't see that.
So do not be alarmed when it gives you that little warning of removing leading slash, which is the root folder from member names. So that's perfectly okay. Are we doing okay so far? Okay, any questions about this step? No questions about this step? Okay. The next step depends a lot on how you are doing everything. So you want to send the archive file, the file that we just created, to the Moodle server, to turn it in as your homework assignment. So it depends a lot on how you're doing it. If you're running Linux natively, like what I'm doing right here, or a Linux environment has a web browser, you can actually run, if your host environment has enough processing power and RAM, you can actually run the entire Linux with its GUI inside the virtual machine. That's perfectly okay if you have enough processing resources to do it. So if you can do it, this is the way you do it. Inside the browser that is inside the Linux environment, you scroll all the way to the end here. You look at the Add Submission button, click it, and it will give you a file permission area. It's still working. It's the JavaScript working its way here.
I don't have file submission. I don't have file submission.
You don't have file submission?
At the very bottom of the page,
You
add
scroll
submission.
all the way to the end.
Check me. Nope.
No?
Check me. Yeah, I'm logged in. It says my name.
Does it have a time remaining?
Do you have Java installed?
Yeah, it didn't give me that.
What's your browser?
This is Chrome.
Try refreshing the page.
I don't think it's the...
Oh yeah.
I have a, what do you call it? Open JRE.
It's not Java. This is all JavaScript.
That's JavaScript.
Yeah, this is all JavaScript, so it should all work.
Yeah, it's running total
Okay,
everything.
I'm gonna do the same thing here.
Not always.
Not always. As we have just proven, right?
It says his name on the bottom.
Well,
Did refreshing it work? No?
okay, we'll take a look at it later.
I switched to the other lab. That helps.
All right, so if you do see the Add Submission button and you click it, you should see this next. Okay, you have to scroll all the way to the bottom again. It says File Submissions. You click Add here, and then you choose a file. Choose the attachment. You just choose a file. We go to the folder. This may be a problem here because I'm logged in as user, so I may not have access to the folder that we were working on before. So I'll give it a try. Oh yeah, I can. Okay, so I can locate a file that we just created. You should see something about this size or exactly the same size, which is less than 1,000 bytes. You click Open, and then you click Upload this file, and then you wait a little bit. And now we have this file specified. You click Save Changes, okay? Don't forget, click Save, changes, because otherwise your file is not submitted yet. After you submit everything, you scroll all the way to the bottom here, and you should see, all this stuff here. The submission status is submitted for grading. Grading status is not graded, and so on and so forth. And make sure that you see a hyperlink so you can download the file that you just uploaded to the server. Yep. I couldn't hear. Sorry.
It doesn't matter what administrator account name is there when you make it.
When you make it.
When you make the file, you make the file.
It is important.
It is important. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you have to get your script and verify.
Yeah, he's going over how to turn the first one.
Did you do it next
I'm
week?
going to use the
Not sure.
name of the username to indicate whose submission it is. Because the way I grade these is
6
I'm
days,
going to
23 hours.
download all the tar.gc files from the entire class, and then I have a script to untar everything and then test it.
Don't tell it to remember your password.
Yep.
What does the GZ mean?
GZ is stands for GZIP. It is a compression program in
Standard.
Linux. For those of you who want to be able to deal with tar files, tar.gz files, and stuff like that in Windows, get 7-zip. Okay, I think it's just 7zip.com.
So
.org.
zip is one of the best.
Sorry. Yeah. So it's one of the really, really versatile compression program. Sorry.
WinRAR works also.
Okay. WinRAR. Yeah. So this one is, but this one I use a lot. 7-zip. It has its own compression algorithm. It's still not working for you?
No, I tried with 2 different logins.
Okay. How about the other people? Does anyone else have a similar problem of not seeing the submission issue?
Worked on mine.
It worked on yours? Okay.
I just tried mine and it doesn't work on his stuff.
Okay. We'll take a look at it.
I'm gonna
Later.
try my account with other computer. I don't debug this.
I don't think it is the computer itself. It probably has to do with your account in Moodle. We'll take a look later. All right. So that's the entire homework assignment. How long will it take you? Oh, we're not done yet. Okay, we are not quite done yet. We are now down to step number 6. If you use a virtual machine, you have to it's a good practice to shut it down properly instead of just clicking that little X button on the screen to shut down the virtual machine. Because pressing the X button is equivalent to yanking the plug on your computer. The extension 3 file system is fairly resistant to that sort of thing. In other words, it's unlikely that it will cause any permanent damage to the file system. But doing that is still not a very good approach. Now I can tell you something that will for sure screw up the virtual machine. Pull the plug on the host while the virtual machine is still running. Now that is far more damaging than just shutting down the virtual machine forcibly. Do you know why?
RAM drive. RAM drive.
Because the host system has its own cache, and if that cache is not written back to the disk, then you have a serious problem, because even though extension 3 is bulletproof, part of the extension 3 is still in the RAM of the host system. If you pull the plug on the host system, that means the extension 3 system on the file, on the disk image itself, can now be inconsistent. And I have seen people getting into serious problems, like basically they host the entire file system because of that. Okay, so shutting down the virtual machine, abruptly is one thing. It can cause damage. I don't think it's very damaging, but shutting down your not shutting down, but unplugging your host system is a big no-no. Okay. So what do you do in case of a power fail?
Hope.
Or a child.
No, you just get a UPS or work on it using a notebook computer.
Hope you have a great backup system.
Yep,
Giant
backup
battery.
system. Yep. Alrighty. So that's the entire homework assignment. How much time do you think it will take you?
It's done.
Oh, it's done.
Good, very good. And answer the question.
So are we seriously no 64-bit?
Yeah, because I'm kind of stuck in 32-bit. It's because of me. I have all my systems still stuck in 32-bit.
That's the question.
Besides, I still don't understand why would anyone need a 64-bit system.
I bought it.
The main reason why we have a 64-bit operating system has to do with a 32-bit operating system can only address up to 4 gigabytes of RAM. Because of 2 to the power of 32 is 4 billion something. Okay, and on a PC like this, the Intel processor is byte addressable. So with only 4 billion locations and each one is a byte, you can only address up to 4 gigabytes, 4 billion bytes or so. And that's why we have 64-bit instructions, which extends the address bus to potentially up to 64 bits. Okay, and that's why we upgrade to 64-bit operating systems. So what I'm not understanding is why would anyone need more than 4 gigs of RAM? we went back to that question, right?
So you can have a video editor open and watch TV at the same time without even buffering.
And play games.
Or games,
And play
games.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I know
you-
some games can consume a lot of RAM because they try to render things ahead of time and keep everything in RAM instead of loading everything from the hard drive, right?
Makes your
Yep.
games clearer. You don't have as much fog.
So that you can play Diablo 3 and Mass Effect 3 at the same time.
And if you want to use the GIMP, or Photoshop, and you want to
Yeah.
maintain, a history, depth of, 10,000 steps or something like that, you're editing those, 20,
Or 3D rendering.
20 megapixel, pictures and stuff like that. Yeah, that can chew up memory like there's no tomorrow. Yep. But I don't do any of that stuff.
My laptop has 16 GB.
I'm still playing StarCraft, the original, okay? So,
Oh.
in an
Really?
emulator.
My laptop has 16 gigs of RAM.
Hmm?
My laptop has 16 gigs.
Special. That's a lot of free memory. and a
Now,
lot.
I can personally think of one thing that I may do that requires this much RAM. Running a whole bunch of virtual machines. Well, running virtual machines is very, very useful, especially for networking classes. Okay, so from the very practical standpoint, this is very useful because you don't actually have to have different separate machines to test different operating systems. And then the second thing is you can set up a virtual network, a VLAN, a virtual LAN. So this way you can actually test the connectivity between servers and clients without any outgoing traffic that can be seen by anything outside of your machine. So that comes in very handy, and that's how I taught the Linux server administration classes. Is to use virtual machines for everything. Print server, database server, authentication servers, and so on. And one machine can do everything. One physical box can do everything.
It's also nice, so if you get hacked, they're only attacking one
Right.
server.
Yeah,
instead of all.
if you run port scan or any type of network activity that can be interpreted by a network administrator as hostile, you want to keep it inside the virtual machine or virtual environment. Yep, absolutely. All right, shall we move on? Are there any questions about the homework assignment? No questions? All right. So now we're going back to memory access. I think we should be able to finish everything today. All right, so we are now up to memory cycles. There are two types of memory cycles. One type of memory cycle is memory write, and the other memory cycle obviously is memory write. Memory read and memory write. Okay, but before this step, I kind of missed some of the steps earlier. From last Thursday, I missed one step. That step has to do with the translation of logical address, which is what your program and your instructions see, to physical address, which is what the memory chips would see. Okay, so let's go back to that question because that is a very important topic. Now remember last time I was using these for students as memory chips, and each person has 512 locations, 512 locations on your memory chip. 10 bits. 9 bits. Okay. So you have 512 bytes on your memory chip. Your one memory chip. You have 512 locations. 512 locations. 512 locations. As a program, when you write your programs, your address is going to go from 0 to, in this case, 2,000 bytes. Okay, 2,048 bytes. 2047, that's the last address. Okay, 0 to 2047.